and how they differ from other type of grants?
That's a great question. And I think too, just to kind of give it a global perspective, is I think that, the capacity building grants, have kind of come to the fore, more recently than what we think typically of other grants. So capacity building really, in the funding of capacity building, really has to do with helping an organization strengthen their infrastructure, okay? So that doesn't mean that we're helping necessarily to focus on programs when we fund that. We're actually helping the organization focus and strengthen their infrastructure so they can do their programming and outreach and work in a more efficient and effective way. And so just to kind of give that differentiation, if you will, that capacity building funding is not program funding.
Okay.
So if that clarifies that. So.
Okay. And would you say that capacity building is closely related to the organization's mission? I mean, although programs are, but it's some sort of a way to guarantee that they keep their mission intact.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, by strengthening the infrastructure, it helps them focus on what they're really supposed to be doing or what their goals are to serve the community. And there's really a couple, within capacity building, there's a variety of different definitions that people respond to or think of when you're thinking of capacity building. But also I see it as there's two different areas of capacity building funding, one which would be mission focused, as you're suggesting, and the other would be sector focused, which would be kind of a different, and at the Conn Memorial Foundation we focus on both of those sectors, and so that might be an interesting...
Can you expand a little bit on the sector?
I can. For example, the mission-focused funding for capacity building has to do with the organization or the agencies that we are funding, okay? And we only fund in Hillsborough County, Florida, so we are very focused on a specific geographical location, and we also have, some specific focuses within that. But the sector focus is really kind of an interesting concept in that we fund the Nonprofit Leadership Center of Tampa Bay, which I know that you're familiar with, and that entity provides education to the nonprofit sector in a whole variety of different ways. So the Conn Foundation is very interested and very committed to investing in the professional development of people within our agencies and organizations so that they can strengthen their ability and knowledge and increase their knowledge and awareness so that they can better serve their agency or organization and the community through their programming. We also fund scholarships through the University of Tampa through their nonprofit management certificate program. Again, has to do with education and making sure that our nonprofit leaders or emerging leaders are fully, educated and knowledgeable about all the different aspects of the nonprofit sector, so again that they can be more successful in their work.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for that explanation. So is there any particular stage, maybe this has to do a little bit with what you had just said, but is there any particular stage of an organization that you would recommend a capacity building grant versus any other type of grant?
That's a very interesting question, because I think, at every stage of an organization's life, they probably need some capacity building help.
Okay.
I think that we never reach perfection. That's the the thing about this is that we're always having to look at what's new, what's trending, how we can improve, how we can better serve our community. And so I would say probably, if I had to give an answer to that, I would say it's when you're in a transition period.
When you're in a transition period.
When the organization or the agency is in a transition period. And I kind of look at agency life, if you will, kind of as a cycle. There's infancy, where they start, then there's growth, and then they kind of peak, and then sometimes there's a decline, and then they go back up again and stuff. So each of those areas might have like a transition, if you will, and there's a reason why they're going through these different different stages, if you will, and it's all a cycle. And so you might find that in order for capacity building funding to really help your organization, if you are in kind of one of these transition times, that might be the best time to really go to a funder and say, hey, we need some help in this, and these are the reasons why. This is where we're at, and this is the reason why.
Perfect. I think you already, the third question was, are there any particular project or projects that are best suited for capacity building grants and others? But I think your answer to the last question, you know, how you expanded on it, helps us answer that.
Yes.
Unless you want to expand on that.
You know, very much so. I think that if we find ourselves, and when I say we, because I come from the agency or organization side, so I haven't always been on the funding side, so I kind of see both sides. I think that when we as organizations and agencies see ourselves, you know, looking at something that's kind of scary in a way, you know, I mean, you know, we need new technology, or we're looking to change our focus a little bit to really meet the community needs, if we need to do some research and evaluation, all of these things are very, very important. And so I think that if we're very true to ourselves and honest with ourselves in the growth and where we want to be going and how we want to be doing it, then I think that's, you know, the time that capacity building really can be a great help to an organization.
What are the challenges, if any, of applying for a capacity building grant?
Well, maybe the biggest challenge probably used to be, if you will, that funders didn't necessarily, that wasn't an area, I'm sorry, that wasn't an area that they really looked at to fund, okay? But over all these many years, I mean, I think that funders have really educated themselves on the needs of organizations. And so I think there are a lot of funders out there now that see capacity building as a major emphasis of theirs, and they're willing to put money into it because they know for the future of the organizations that they invest in that they do need infrastructure, and they do need systems helps, and they do need, you know, governance and leadership and all of these things to help them succeed. So I think that probably it used to be more of a challenge than it used to be, and but I see probably you need to tell your story, why you feel, and you need to be very honest about it. You know, funders want you to be honest. They don't want you to, you know, sugarcoat things. They want you to be honest, and they want you to tell them really what it is that you need and why you need to do it. And it's hard work. Capacity building is hard work. You know, it really is. It shouldn't be looked at as like, oh, you know, if we get this money, then, you know, we'll get a new database. Well, no, there's much more than that, you know, so.
Great. So let's say that X or Y organization got a capacity building grant, I mean, submitted and got, you know, the grant was approved. What are the most significant issues when managing a capacity building grant?
That's very, very interesting. Staying true to it and being forcing yourself to work through it, because like I said, capacity building it's often a tough thing if we're very honest about it, and it means that we are facing change in some way. And, you know, change is very difficult for all of us, you know, no matter what it is. You know, some of us welcome and stuff, but still it's tough, you know. And lots of times during the process, if you will, of capacity building and all of that, that you come into a great divide.
Great divide.
Yes. So you might have board, board division. You may have staff division on where it is that we're going and how we're going to go, how we're going to be doing that. Depending on what your capacity building grant is funding. And so, but this is all good. I mean, even though it's tough, you may lose people along the way and all of that. I think if you're able to stick with it and really be true to it, that it will put you out on the other side in a stronger way. I had read somewhere a long time ago with regard to capacity building, and I loved this quote or this thought. It's not so much the results that are important, it's the process.
Really?
Because the process will take you to
the result.
Exactly,
okay,
exactly.
Great.
So the process of it is very important.
Okay, great advice. And I think this is another question that at some point you have already answered, but let me ask it anyhow. What do you think are the most significant trends, the main issues and trends as far as capacity buildings are concerned? Because you just mentioned, they have just come to the fore.
Yes.
It's not that they're new, but funders and organizations are looking at it from a different perspective.
Yes.
You need that. You need those kind of grants to keeps the tree trunk steady and solid, right? Okay.
Well, really, the ultimate goal of capacity building funding, and all of that is to sustain your organization. So that process, again, is very important. And to sustain our organizations, we have to look at a variety of different things. Like I said, we've touched upon infrastructure. Okay, so we may need help with our board. Okay, helping our boards to become stronger and more aware of what their roles and duties and responsibilities are. So that could be one area. Development and marketing, fundraising, private funding and marketing might be another area where we need to focus on capacity building. Agency or program assessment and evaluation, might be another area. Leadership, staff leadership, all of these things that might require somebody from the outside to come in and help us work through the process, so that in the end we have a well thought out plan in order to chart the future.
Okay.
So,
Great. Under what circumstances can a capacity building project flatline?
And they do, when the going gets tough, and as I talked about, sometimes you can come to these great divides, really. And sometimes it's so painful, but like I said, you're going to have to stay true to the process and kind of have some faith that, that you're strong enough to work through it. I think, and I speak from Conn, the Conn Memorial Foundation's perspective, we want all of our agencies and organizations to succeed. We don't want them to fail. So we're willing to help them in any way that we can. Funding is one way. If funding is obviously a main concern, because that's what we do here, or part of what we do. But also, the president of the foundation and I are available to all of our organizations to assist them in helping kind of go through, some steps to help them be successful. So if they need, so if they need our help in any way, technical assistance, if you will, in any way, whether it be leadership or governance or assistance with, grants and all of that, we are available to help them through that. So we want to be, I think, just to get to the bottom line, is we want to be supportive of when they are facing difficulties, if that capacity process is flatlining, and just to support them through the process and to